In lesson 18, we're learning about the velocity. We're going to learn about the velocity and the rotation speed blocks to help us move and kind of change the sprite movements. Doing this is going to help us simplify our code. So rather than using counter patterns, we're going to be learning a new block to make it easier to give these instructions. So let's go ahead and dive into the coding. Here in the very first, or I guess second bubble, what we're asked to do is we're asked to use the velocity block. We're going to make sure we're moving the correct sprite, so it's naming the sprite or the variable, and then we're gonna go ahead and change it to a value 1. So here we have the fish sprite created. It's asking us to change the velocity x right here. I'm going to go and type in fish here, and then it said to change it to a value 1. And when I do that, I notice that the fish moves to the right. Okay, we are probably making this prediction, but it's asking us to change the value of velocity x to a different value. So let's make it a larger number. And I think maybe a lot of us would predict that a larger velocity is going to make the fish go faster. Okay, so that was number 2. Number 3 is the video, so I'm going to move on to number 4. On number 4, we have a feather. It should be floating down the screen. We know that velocity x moves the sprite to the right, so let's what can we do to make the feather move down? So what we're going to do is we're going to find the block that makes the feather sprite move or go down the screen and use it outside, and that's the kind of key thing, outside the draw loop. Before we put the counter patterns inside, we're going to be putting it outside the draw loop. Okay, so essentially, we know that the x property moves a sprite horizontally, so we know the y property moves sprites vertically. So we're going to try out velocity y, and we need to make sure we rename to velocity feather. And if we're going down, remember, we're increasing the value of y, the y coordinate. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose, let's just say 2. I'm going to run it, and I notice the feather goes down. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5 is just a bit more practice, but instead of using the velocity, we're going to be practicing using the rotation speed. We're going to make the sun rotate by 3 degrees each time using the rotation speed block. Okay, so very similar to velocity, except it's just the rotation speed. I'm going to drag it again outside the draw loop. And I'm going to change it 3 degrees. I'm going to hit run. Okay, so that's just the rotation speed. Number 6, we're going to practice a bit more, but this time we're going to put it inside a conditional, the if statement. So essentially, it's this time we're going to go ahead and put the rotation speed inside the draw loop to change the speed of the sprite during the program or during the game. For example, a sprite can start rotating when the user presses the spacebar, and it will keep rotating until it's told to stop. So we're going to look at the if statement inside the draw loop and check that checks whether the spacebar has been pressed. And then we're going to use the rotation block to make the color wheel start spinning when the user presses spacebar. Okay, so again, we're going to rotate it to wheel. So I'm changing this to wheel, and I don't know if they told us to choose a value. I'm just going to go ahead and put 3. So I'm going to hit run, and at first it doesn't do anything, but as soon as I press down space, it's going to run, and as soon as I let go, again, nothing still happens. Sorry, I was thinking of the wrong code. Nothing still happens. So far, there's nothing that actually tells it to stop rotating. Because right now we use the code key went down. If you wanted to stop when you let go of space, you use the code key down. Okay, so just a quick reminder about that. Let's take a look at number 7. We're just making a prediction here. We'll do this in class together, so I'm going to skip this one. And finally, number 8. Okay, so this is the soccer ball one. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and run the code, and basically it bounces back because it's coded to here, and we want it to bounce back the other way. Okay, so when it hits the screen, and that's similar to number 7 where you guys made the prediction with the fish. It's going to be a similar pattern, so if you're completely lost, you can look back at that. You know, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do that here. So ball.y, you know, if we kind of go back to the, I guess, the pattern from bubble 7, we have the conditional if fish.x is less than 0, meaning if it, let's look at this one, if fish.y is greater than 400, this happens, it changes the velocity to -2. When it's on the left side at x equals 0, it changes the velocity to +2. So that's the strategy we're going to use here. If ball.y is greater than 380, meaning it gets around here, the bottom of the screen, the velocity changes to, y velocity changes to -5. So we're going to do the opposite. If ball.y is less than, I'm going to go and say 20. Okay, so meaning when the ball gets up here, the y location gets up here to 20, what we're going to do is we want the velocity of y, the ball velocity of y, to be +5, so it goes downwards. Okay, so it's going to go down. Here's the first code, and when it gets to the top, it's going to run the second condition, and so forth. All right. After this one is number 9, which is the practice. I'm not going to do that one, but hopefully this video helped us out.